Hey YouTube! This is episode 15 of my vlog. This one's about the blind girl years, air quotes, around that, for anyone who didn't see. Before I start that though, I am going to start with a few anecdotes as I've been starting my videos lately. So the first one isn't as funny as the second, but, yeah. So I got off of the train today and I was walking and I turned the corner and I'm, walking, and this lady's like, "Hey, you know where you're going, or are you okay?" And I was just like, "I'm fine, thanks." And, she's like, "Okay," And so on the one hand, I appreciate that she gave me the out, "Do you know where you're going, or are you okay?" She gave me the out to just say, "Yeah, I'm fine, thanks." But it was just weird, because I was in motion, rather than if I were just, like, standing at the street corner, if I was, like, standing in the middle of the sidewalk, or the middle of the street, just looking confused. It was just strange. And there are instances where I've been walking, and for example, I'm walking on the train station, and we get out, we go through the turnstile, and someone's like, "Oh, you're going the wrong way." No, I'm not, but thank you. Sometimes there are more than one entrance, and I know which entrance I'm going to. Thanks, though. Um, and then, so my godmother shared this story with me. So she was a dispatcher for the park police, and now she moved away from me, because she doesn't love me anymore. But she moved away from me, and she's now working on being a dispatcher for, I believe the emergency police, like the 911 people. A communications officer, sorry, not a dispatcher. So she's currently in training for that, and one of her fellow trainees or whatever, I'm not sure what the correct term would be, one of the people whom she's training with, shared one of her phone calls with them not too long ago. And so someone had called in, and they were like, there's an emergency. Someone's walking along the side of the highway. Now, there are some streets, or some places, rather, where there are, no sidewalks or whatever. But this didn't happen to be one of them. The person that the caller called about was walking on the little sidewalk beside the highway. So they were like, they're trying to figure out what exactly the emergency was. The guy was blind. That's what the emergency was. And I believe the caller went over to him and asked if he was fine, and the guy was fine. So it was just kind of like a waste of their time when they could have been dealing with a different emergency. Or maybe the caller should have gone to the blind man first before calling the police. Now, my godmother didn't tell it to me in that way. She wasn't like, it was a waste of our time. But I think it was a waste of their time when they could have had actual emergencies to be dealing with. And, she was, to them, my godmother was like, well, my goddaughter goes through, things like this all the time. She's like, the man probably knew where he was going, especially if he was walking along a highway. Granted, he could have wandered off and gotten lost, but again, that's where the guy should have asked him first before calling the police. But, staying on my godmother, so she has stories of when I was younger, me playing on the playground and people whispering about me, and she and everybody else would be upset, or they'd want to make sure that I was okay, and she just said that I just didn't care. I never seemed to care. All I wanted to do was just go play, while they were obsessing, and everybody wanted to curse at everybody else, and and I was just like, I was a kid, I just wanted to go play. And there are kids who care about their image, what people say, but I didn't. Sadly, that did not last up until 3rd grade. This is preschool, kindergarten, I think. But this did not last to 3rd grade. So in my past video, when I talked about my academic history and stuff, I told you about the 3rd grade incident. When I first started public schooling, I was placed in special education because I'm blind, so, And then I had a vision teacher come along who realized that was not the right placement for me. So I tested out of it, or whatever the procedure was, and the last 3 or 4 months of 3rd grade, I was placed in a general education mainstream, whatever, classroom. And the following year, I changed schools to one with like better education, and or I guess better educationally would have been the better word to say that. But anyway, so I switched schools, and my vision teacher advised my parents that I should do third grade again, because, um, just to make sure that I was fully caught up for fourth grade, since I'd spent it in two different programs. And while I do understand it, it's still really frustrating because that just like threw everything off. Like I didn't graduate with some of my friends, like the friends that I'd known since I was a child, and things like that. And in that previous video, one of my viewers commented saying that they had also been left back because I believe they were too young to go on to the next grade. I think that's so stupid. Why does the person have to be a certain age? If they pass, if they're ready to go on, then like let them go. Or I have a friend who came to the States when they were younger. I don't know, like 9 or 10, or was it for high school or something? I don't remember, but like they came to the States after being educated somewhere else, and they either had to choose to go back a grade or forward a grade. Like they wouldn't be placed into the grade that they should be in, which is just so weird. But anyway, so when I started at the new school, it was really awkward because I was the only blind person there, or visually impaired to the point where I had a cane. I was the only student who used a cane. Obviously there were kids with glasses, and when they took off their glasses, their vision was impaired, but they weren't technically legally blind because their vision could be corrected with glasses to have, 20/20 or whatever. And whenever people like asked about it, because I was like an anomaly. So whenever people asked about my vision, I couldn't fully like explain it because I never really had to explain it before. Like I was with a lot of like other visually impaired and blind people, and the school that I was in, while it wasn't like dedicated to blind folk, there were also sighted kids, fully sighted kids. They were accustomed to the other blind people being around. So I remember telling people that I was half blind. So in addition to being the blind girl, I was also the half blind girl. I remember once in junior high, calling one of my elementary school friends because I'd found his number, and when he answered and asked who it was, I was like, it's Lily, and he'd been with one of our mutual friends at the time. I think a couple of my elementary school friends went to the same junior high, and he was like, hey, it's Lily, you remember the half blind girl? Like that was the thing. Although it didn't last past maybe like fourth grade because my vision teacher commented on it and stuff, and I was really uncomfortable about my vision. I tried to lessen it somehow, but I didn't really have any choice about using my cane because, even in my state of embarrassment, I knew it was a necessity, but also like my teachers probably would have like told my mom and I would have gotten in trouble, like, blah blah blah. But I tried to like play it off, and I tried to pretend that my vision was better than it was. I became like pretty adept at playing off whenever I bumped into anything or pretending I could see what my friends were talking about, like in a picture or something. They'd usually talk about it enough for me to get an idea of what was going on. And I was also embarrassed about having a para. She was pretty cool, but it was just, she was only there for mobility purposes. I guess if I fell down the stairs and I had no one there like watching over me, it might be like a liability or something. And I probably would not fall down the stairs with my para with me. I mean, I wouldn't have fallen down the stairs anyway. But, just whatever. I wasn't cleared, which is something that happens. A mobility has to go with the blind or visually impaired student and make sure they know how to get where they're going, and they know safe routes, depending on, like, if it's outside or in school. But anyway, so it's just awkward because the para, like, I only needed her for, like, the mobility. Like, she just walked around with me. She did help in terms of when I had trouble with schoolwork and stuff, my vision teacher as well, but, she wasn't there for any, like, medical health reasons. It was just to follow me around. Or that's how it felt, But, so I spent a lot of the time walking with and being guided by my friends. Initially, I only wanted to walk by myself, but, like, soon I became to realize that was, like, a lot of pressure. I had to stay in the line and then not bump into anyone or anything. And then I had to make sure that I was, like, walking in line with the friend that I was talking to, like, walking in step with them. So, I had to make some concessions. Like, yes, I needed a guide. And even today, I prefer to be guided when I'm walking with people. it's just a lot easier. I make sure that I don't fall behind or I'm not walking too fast for them. We stay in step. Like even if they're just they're not looking out for me. Although if you're guiding someone, they generally automatically look out for both themselves and the person. But it's just easier. So I have my cane looking out for me, and we're walking and talking. And it's easy also when I'm in a group because I feel really awkward walking solo in a group. But yeah. So anyway, that was my nickname, and it was like whispered in the halls or. As I mentioned in the previous video, people talking about me as though I'm not there or as though I couldn't hear them. Some of my friends, like, I don't know, if they'd move a few steps away for whatever reason, someone would be like, oh, you talk to the blind girl, or you're friends with a blind girl. And, while this was happening, my vision teacher was, like, cultivating only my Braille reading. When I was in my old school, I'd worked on, like, Braille and print, but I think they thought it was a lost cause for me. And that was like really frustrating. My sister tried to keep me working on print and my writing. But, my thinking was, well, I'm not doing it at school. It's obviously not worth my time. So now I only read numbers on the cable boxes and digital clocks, nothing else. But at the time, it was just like, oh, so you can't write? And it was just like, so I did try, like, sometimes practice the writing, but I just get so frustrated, because my sister was the only one pushing it, and that was great. And I really do wish that I kept at it. I'd actually stopped really like trying to use my vision. Once I got to the point where I didn't care anymore, which happened around like 5th grade, I was just like, F it. Because no matter what you do, people are always going to, there's always going to be someone that you're trying to impress for some reason. There's always going to be something that you're trying to downplay for some reason. It's just like a lot on top of just being a kid and like fitting in with the music trends and whatever was going on in 5th grade. Just also like pretending like your vision was more. It was a lot. It was a lot of pressure, and a lot of times, no matter what happened though, if people talked about me, no matter like I wouldn't show that I was visibly annoyed, but I'd like play it off, and I think just playing it off so much, like I eventually just didn't care. And in junior high, like when I went there, I was again the blind girl, but I kind of enjoyed it. People were shocked when they like whispered, and I'd respond. It was kind of like a "it speaks" reaction, and no matter what my feelings were towards my vision, like I said, I pretended like I didn't care, and I always had a sizable group of friends, which I definitely helped. People also kind of referred to me like, oh, did you know that the blind girl sings? Like, did you hear that she sings? Or the blind girl, like, she read this thing in class. It was, like, pretty, like, that was the thing, that, I think there were probably people who were embarrassed to be friends with me, and it was significantly less than the actual, the friends that I had, the good friends, the good acquaintances that I had, and I always had, like, a set, like, two to four people that I hung out with, a little group, but, I branched out, and I knew a lot of people, but some people would try to play off our friendships as though they were just helping me for the moment, or as though like I was a charity case, or and then I had other friends. The bulk of my friends, the ones that I hung out with regularly, just didn't give two figs. There are a few instances I can remember where like the friends of my friends would call out to them, be like, oh, what good Samaritans they were, or say something about like charity work. My friends would get so upset. And, I would just shrug it off. Like, even the elementary school days when something bothered me, I was just, like, good at pretending I didn't care. And I actually started not to. And, of course there are instances that bother me. Like, when I'm walking and I'm about to walk around a crowd, and they just start shoving each other out of the way and laughing and saying stupid stuff. Like, it's great that they part for me, but it's just, with everybody like running around and getting out of my way, like it just makes it more confusing, or the people who like laugh about me walking into something when I try to walk around them, in the moment I'd be frustrated, but a few steps later I'd just be like, all right, whatever, F it. Yesterday I was walking and there's a group of kids just like scattered, and one of them was like to someone, yo, it's the blind girl, watch out, yada yada yada, and it's just like, it's stupid, personally, today I was walking back to the dorm, and this person, he was like, hey, move to the left a little, you're gonna hit me. Now, I assumed he was talking to me because I didn't see anyone else around us, so I moved over, and he was like, thanks, blah, blah, blah. And, like, that's all you have to say. There are some times when I'm walking, and people, like, they're shouting at me, and I've mentioned this in, like, previous videos, but, like, if I'm standing at the yellow warning strip, the yellowy orange, I guess it's yellow, it's more yellow than orange. That just made me think of the Skittles commercial. But, so I'd be standing at the yellow warning strip, and people are like, you're standing too close to the edge, blah, 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 and they're just, like, shouting at me. And if I were more easily startled, like, what if I involuntarily took a step forward and I did fall? Now, granted, I don't stand that close to the edge, like, I stand a little behind it. And I also only do this at stations like Grand Central, where it's really noisy, so, like, I don't rely on hearing the train pull in, I rely on seeing it. Or sometimes when I'm walking to the train station and I'm about to walk down the stairs, someone's like, you're coming to steps, is that where you want to go? Are you going to the train station, ma'am? Blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, calm down, relax. There are people who've grabbed me like, you're coming up to some steps, ma'am. And it's just like, oh, thank you. Like, I appreciate, and I really, like, it's well-intentioned, but also just think about how it comes off. People, I've been, like, walking, people have shouted at me to, like, move left or whatever it is. Like, if they see that I'm about to walk into something. Now, sometimes I see it too, and I'm going to walk around it, or sometimes I bump into, or my cane hits something. Now, people seem to forget about my cane, or maybe they just don't understand its purpose. But my cane might hit something, and people are like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Yeah, I never touched it. Only my cane hit it, and it did its job, and I knew to walk around it. And, sometimes I was walking another time and someone's like, oh, the blind girl's about to walk into something. There's just a lot of the blind girl, Although, my days as the sole blind girl did end in high school. There were others. But, it was still pretty prevalent because there weren't, like, a huge amount of us. But sometimes, like, they distinguished us by, like, body characteristics. So one of my friends had a rather expansive bottom, and that's how she was like recognized. And I had a lot of like friends or a lot of people that knew me. I didn't necessarily always know the people. I've mentioned this too about people and their voices. Like, people just come up to me and like, hey Lily, and I'm just like, hi. Sometimes I figure out who they are in the midst of the conversation. Sometimes, like, they're just so excited to see me, I don't want to burst their bubble and be like, who are you? Especially if it's one of those conversations that seems like it's going to be fleeting. I have other friends that they're like, hey Lily, it's whomever. And it's great because, you just like get it out of the way. I know who you are. Thanks for telling me. And that's that. Or, other friends, some of my friends, like, if we're good friends, then they'll do this. They'll be like, hey Lily. And they're like, you do realize who this is, right? Like, if I'm talking to them, but I don't actually say their name. Because some of my friends have, like, figured out my trick that I'll talk to someone, and it's very easy to talk to someone without actually saying their name. But anyway, so that's going off topic, but so I just wanted to talk about my blind girl days, and no matter what your disability is, I really feel like, it's not worth it, like, trying to downplay it and having all of these issues. It's like, the saying, don't cry over spilled milk. Like, it's who you are. You're probably not going to be able to change it. If you want to change it and you can, that's amazing. That's great. Whatever makes you happy, unless it's your visual impairment or disability that's making you unhappy, well then, you should work on that. But, it's just so much, like, always trying to fit in and trying to make people happy. Like, yes, I definitely have my insecurities, and I'm very good at, like, pulling off and faking being confident. Like, people think that I don't care, and I generally don't, but there are times that I do. But, sometimes, fake it till you make it, that really does, like, that's an adage that's really true, and it, just worked for me. And, it's just, I don't know, don't let other people get to you. Don't let them, like, dictate how you see things, how you view the world. Haha, you see what I did there. But, just be, like, happy with things. Like, now I'm cool with being visually impaired. Like, my friends sometimes, they talk about, like, something. Like, they get upset about a line. I'm like, hello? Did you forget that you're with me? Like, I usually get to cut lines and stuff like that. Like, as I said in previous videos, like, I'm blind when it's convenient to me. Yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say, um, yeah. All right. Till next time. Bye. Enjoy Cinco de Mayo.